It's time for Gnomeo and Juliet movie reviews. Starting with Gnomeo and Juliet. Imagine naming your kid after your species. Just imagine naming your kid Humanio. Yes, it is weird watching gnomes flirt. Something about watching gnomes kiss feels wrong. I love when the art of film is able to capture the subtle nuances of the most obscure and least performed of Shakespeare's works. Did you know that Gnomeo and Juliet actually invented Elton John? I thought Elton John stole songs from Gnomeo and Juliet when I was a kid. This movie made me question my sanity in so many ways. That's something only true cinema can do. This had 9 writers. 9 people contributed to this screenplay. Not sure this is scientifically possible, but still really liked the movie. What is actually the science behind this? Because I thought it was just gnomes that came to life. Then it expanded to include all terracotta garden creatures. And then the statue of Shakespeare started speaking? Where do we draw the line? Oh, to be a little gnome waddling around in an English garden with the ceramic rabbits. Not as bad as I wanted it to be, as you can't hate a movie with a badass lawnmower. I want more Terraforminator. I just know Willie Shakes would simply adore the word Terraforminator! Michael Caine once pushed me down a flight of stairs in a dream, and now whenever I hear his voice, I panic. James McAvoy's still hot as hell as Gnomeo, to be honest. Gnomeo wears eyeliner and has an eyebrow slit. The people I saw this with, my girlfriend amongst them, all thought the gnome Juliet was hot. I guess that says something about the movie's quality. Dang, can this movie go 5 seconds without introducing a hot character? Crazy how the scene where Gnomeo and Juliet meet for the first time to Hello Hello by Elton John featuring Lady Gaga invented cinema. Nah, forget this movie. Why the hell do gosh darn gnomes get to be in love and not me? This has truly sent me in a spiral, a rabbit hole if you will, as to why I pull absolutely zero. And yet these gnomes are living a romantic dream. Like they literally ended racism with their love. Changed my perception of myself completely, and not in a good way. That damn Elton John Hello Hello Orchid scene was more affection than I have ever had in my time of existence combined. I feel lethal, on the verge of frenzy. I think my mask of sanity is about to slip. Wish they died like the original. I can't believe she took the lawn flamingo in the divorce. Gnomeo and Juliet is the equivalent of ordering a sausage biscuit from a gas station. It looks terrible, sounds terrible, feels like it should be terrible, and those who consume it will realize they should have trusted their gut long ago. I cannot say enough about this movie. The animation is out of this world, from capturing the slender complexion of Juliet to the ruggedness of Gnomeo. The soundtrack is one of the greatest ever. The humor of this movie can only be understood and appreciated by true intellectuals. This movie cannot be topped by any movie. 10 out of 10, gnomes. Gnomeo got some big-ass hands. So, the neighbors didn't see or hear their gnomes having a freaking nuclear war in their backyard? Okay, so I don't know that I have an opinion on the film, but I look forward to seeing more movies that bring to light the very underrepresented romantic relations of frogs and gnomes. Shakespeare was a freaking buffoon for not adding a dance party montage to the end of his version. I watched this during a tornado warning. I wished it hit my house. Sherlock Gnomes. A sequel to Gnomeo and Juliet is like a dog walking on its hind legs. It is not done well, but you are surprised to find it done at all. A strangely accurate portrayal of the deterioration of relationships when faced with domestic reality after an initial whirlwind romance, set against the backdrop of a gnome-based crime drama. Interesting. I don't believe there can be a better iteration of Sherlock Holmes other than the ones I've made. Unless, of course, someone were to use 3D animation to turn him into a gnome. Quote, Arthur Conan Doyle. Call out to my friend who took until halfway through the film to realize Sherlock Gnomes was a gnome, and not a tiny human man. There's dabby gnomes. That's all you need to know. Gnomeo steps on a mine and permanently freaking dies. Juliet cries over his shattered corpse. Oh, wait, no, that's what I desperately wanted to happen. Sorry. About 10 minutes into this movie, we see a presumably human TV news report on disappearing garden gnomes, and the announcer is like, "Some say this is a job for Sherlock Gnomes." In a universe that basically operates on Toy Story rules for garden accessories, it is one of the most egregious examples of a film just completely breaking its lore I have ever seen, and nothing like it ever happens ever again. My favorite part of this movie is that the British Navy has a drone on their ship which is controlled via a control panel on the drone itself, and is so small that it could be easily hijacked by a sentient garden gnome. One starts to wonder if the drone was designed with a sentient gnome pilot in mind, which is strange as the rest of the human population seems oblivious to the sentient gnome/garden ornament society. Which begs the question, what does the government know that the public doesn't? And if the government knows about the Gnome Society, then did they know about Moriarty's plot to commit a gnome genocide? Gnomicide? And if so, why did they do nothing to stop him? Given that Moriarty's plan revolves around the movements of British Navy ships through Tower Bridge, maybe the British Navy are not just unwitting pawns in Moriarty's plan, but in fact willing agents in cahoots with Moriarty and his plan to murder London's gnome world. I'm convinced if someone has a garden gnome collection, they're on some sort of register with the local police. I fell asleep a few times watching this. The only good joke was, what are you gonna do, depress me to death? Because that's exactly what the film practically did to me. No one is allowed to hate these animated gnome movies because they're Elton John's passion projects, so they're inherently LGBT cinematic masterpieces. Y'all can fight me on this. This is Elton John's weird English garden gnome-infested world, and we're just living in it. No joke, halfway during the movie it stopped and the lights in the theater came on. The manager walked into the theater and said, "We're going to watch Flushed Away instead." And we did. It came on and a few people left, but the rest of us just watched half of Sherlock Gnomes and all of Flushed Away. Thanks, movie. You made my boyfriend almost break up with me. Not because you made us want to die, which you did, but because he thinks I'll never be as hot as this. I completely understand him, though. John Locke shippers screaming and crying because it's more canon in this movie than any BBC Sherlock episode ever. When even Sherlock Gnomes has queerbaited you, then you know that society is truly crumbling. Gnomosexuals. Good for them. If you're brave enough to make a Sherlock Holmes adaptation with garden gnomes, you should be brave enough to make Holmes and Watson kiss. Other than that, it was fine, I guess. Picture this. It's spring 2018, May 13th to be exact, a day after your 14th birthday. You've been memeing about this movie for months on end. You think it's going to be a hilariously bad time, so you decide to go see this film with your best friend at the time. You both purchase your ticket and you walk in. It's the biggest screen they have in their cinema, and you are given the best seats in this theater, in the center, near the back. You get comfortable, you get your food, and the movie starts, and you sit there in pure misery and agony for what felt like 3 hours but is somehow less than 90 minutes long. You want to leave, but you don't want to feel rude or weak, so you suffer through it. Every single second, you could have spent that time doing anything, seeing any other movie, hanging out with many more friends, exercising, going to therapy, finding the cure to cancer. But no! You wasted that time watching this in the biggest screen in your local cinema, the day after your 14th birthday. Scene. I want to f the frog, 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 I want to f the frog. Thank you to everyone who suggested I read Gnomeo and Juliet reviews. Thank you to everyone who voted for it in the last poll. And of course, most of all, thank you for watching. I hope you found it entertaining. My confession of the day is that I, Tonka Joey, collect gnomes. I have many stuffed gnomes and ceramic gnomes. I do like gnomes a lot, so if you think I'm insane for that, please don't unsubscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. A gnome-tastic day, in fact.